The docking bay lights flickered as Captain Elias Trent waited beside his ship. The station was loud, full of voices from 100 different species. Metal footsteps echoing across the floor. Machines humming without rest. Elias stood calm in the chaos, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes fixed on the cargo lane. He had ordered many strange things in his years among the stars. Exotic minerals, ancient tech parts, even rare alien animals. This time was no different. The broker had promised him a rare creature. Something gentle. Something interesting. A perfect companion for long voyages. The contract was clear enough, at least according to the broker. Non-hostile, low intelligence, safe for humans. That was all Elias cared about. The delivery drone finally arrived, floating toward him with a large metal crate locked beneath it. The crate was taller than Elias, and marked with warning symbols in half a dozen languages. That was normal. Rare things always came with warnings. The drone lowered the crate and released it with a soft mechanical click. Delivery confirmed, the drone said in a flat voice. Payment received. Responsibility transferred. Then it lifted back into the air and vanished into the traffic above. Elias frowned slightly but shrugged it off. He had learned long ago that interstellar businesses were never friendly. He placed his palm on the crate scanner. The lock disengaged with a hiss. "All right," he muttered to himself. "Let's see what I paid for." The crate door slid open. Elias froze. Inside was not a small creature. Not fur, scales, or tentacles. Inside was a woman. She was curled into the corner of the crate, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around herself. Her skin was pale, almost silver under the lights. Long dark hair spilled over her shoulders, tangled and unkempt. Her eyes were wide and glowing faintly red, filled with pure terror. Small, sharp fangs were visible as she gasped for breath. She flinched when the door opened, pressing herself tighter against the metal wall, as if trying to disappear. Elias took a step back in shock. That's not right," he said quietly. The woman let out a soft sound, not quite a word, not quite a cry. She raised one shaking hand, palm out, as if begging him not to hurt her. Elias raised both his hands slowly. "Hey," he said in a calm voice. "Easy. I'm not going to hurt you." She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. Her breathing slowed just a little, though her eyes never left him. Elias looked around the crate, searching for any kind of translator collar, control device, or instruction panel. There was nothing. Just a living, breathing person who clearly did not belong in a box. "She's sentient," Elias said under his breath. "What kind of idiot company sells a person as a pet?" He stepped back and pulled up his wrist console, opening a channel to the broker. "This is Captain Trent," he said sharply. "There's been a mistake." The broker's face appeared as a flickering hologram, a thin alien with too many eyes and a practiced smile. "No mistake," the broker said. "Delivery completed." "You sold me a person," Elias said, anger rising in his voice. "She's intelligent. She's terrified." The broker tilted its head. "Species classification, nocturne predator. Limited social development. Often kept as bonded companions. Pet status accepted by many buyers." "That's not how humans work," Elias snapped. "I want a refund." The broker's smile vanished. "Contract is binding. Responsibility is yours now." The channel cut. Elias stared at the empty air, his jaw tight. Slowly, he lowered his arm and looked back at the crate. The woman was still there, still shaking. Her eyes flicked toward the open bay doors, then back to him, clearly searching for escape and finding none. Elias exhaled slowly. "All right," he said to himself. "We'll figure this out." He stepped closer, moving carefully, and knelt down to her level. He made sure to stay at a distance, not invading her space. "My name is Elias," he said, tapping his chest. "Elias." She stared at him, confused. He pointed gently at her. "What's your name?" For a moment, she said nothing. Then, in a barely audible whisper, she spoke a word. "Lyra." Her voice was soft, broken, but clear enough. Elias felt something twist in his chest. "Lyra," he repeated slowly. Okay, Lyra. She flinched at the sound of her name but did not pull away. That alone felt like progress. Elias stood and signaled to a station worker. I need clearance to move this crate to my ship. The worker glanced inside, did a double take, but said nothing. In deep space, asking questions often led to trouble. Once aboard his ship, Elias guided the crate into his private quarters. He left the door open, giving Lyra space. He brought her water and a simple ration bar, placing them on the floor and stepping back. She did not touch them at first. She watched him closely, eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Elias dimmed the lights further. Instantly, Lyra relaxed just a little. Noted, Elias said quietly. You like the dark. Hours passed in silence. Elias sat across the room, pretending to work while keeping an eye on her. Eventually, hunger won. Lyra crawled forward, sniffed the food cautiously, then took small bites. Her movements were careful, controlled, like someone who had learned to survive by being invisible. Elias observed without staring. Every movement told a story. She was strong, fast, but deeply afraid. Later, when the ship entered open space and the engines hummed steadily, Lyra finally spoke again. Human, bad? She asked in broken common speech. Elias looked up slowly. Some are, he said honestly. Some aren't. She seemed to think about that. He pointed at himself. Me, not bad. She studied him for a long moment, then gave a small nod. That night, Elias did not sleep. He reviewed the contract in detail, digging into hidden clauses and encoded language. The truth became clear. Lyra's species had been labeled dangerous centuries ago, feared, hunted. Over time, slavers rebranded them as exotic companions to make selling them easier. Elias clenched his fists. You were never meant to be a pet, he muttered. Lyra sat in the shadows, watching him. She did not understand his words, but she understood his anger was not aimed at her. When the ship passed through a faint star glow, light spilled briefly into the room. Lyra hissed softly and retreated deeper into the darkness. Sunlight hurts? Elias asked. She nodded. All right, he said. We'll avoid it. It was a small promise, but it mattered. By the end of the day, Lyra had stopped trembling whenever he moved. She stayed close to the shadows but no longer tried to hide completely. Elias gave her a blanket and adjusted the temperature without being asked. Trust, he knew, was built in small steps. Out in the vast silence of space, one human and one frightened alien shared a ship, both realizing that a simple mistake had changed their lives forever. Elias had wanted a pet. Instead, he had found someone who needed protection, and Lyra, though still afraid, had found something she had not expected from a human: safety. The ship moved quietly through deep space, far from the busy lanes of the galaxy. Inside, the lights stayed low, and the hum of the engines became a steady, calming sound. Elias had adjusted everything to make the ship feel safer for Lyra. He avoided bright systems, chose longer routes, and locked the ship's location from public trackers. Lyra noticed all of it. At first, she stayed near the shadows of Elias's private quarters. She slept curled against the wall, always alert, always ready to run. But as time passed, fear slowly loosened its grip. She began to move around the room more freely, though never without watching Elias carefully. Elias never forced her to do anything. He spoke gently, explained what he was doing even when he knew she could not understand every word. He believed tone mattered as much as language. When he cooked, he let her watch from a distance. When he trained or repaired systems, he kept the door open. Slowly, Lyra began to understand that he was not pretending to be kind. This was simply how he was. One cycle, the ship drifted close to a dim red star. The light barely touched the windows, but Lyra reacted instantly. She hissed softly and backed away. Eyes wide, Elias noticed and immediately changed course. Sorry, he said. Didn't mean to scare you. Lyra watched the star fade from view. When the light disappeared, She relaxed again. She looked at Elias, then lowered her head slightly. It was the first sign of gratitude. Elias smiled, though he did not say anything. Communication improved slowly. Lyra knew a few words of common speech, likely learned during captivity. Elias used simple words, repeating them often. He pointed, named objects, and waited patiently. "Water," he said one day, handing her a container. "Water," Lyra repeated quietly. "Good," Elias said. She tilted her head, curious at his tone. Over time, Elias learned about her habits. She did not drink blood like the stories claimed. Her species absorbed energy from special minerals and protein-rich food. The vampire label was a lie built from fear and misunderstanding. Lyra could see clearly in darkness. She could hear heartbeats through walls. She sensed emotions, especially fear and anger, like ripples in the air. That was why the crate had been torture. She had felt the panic of every being around her, trapped with no way to escape. One cycle, while Elias was reviewing star maps, the ship's warning system chimed softly. Lyra froze. Her eyes snapped toward the corridor. Her body tensed, every muscle ready. Elias looked up. "What is it?" She did not answer. She moved silently toward him, placed a hand on his arm, and shook her head. Then the ship shuddered. Alarms flared. Elias jumped to his feet and rushed to the control panel. Long-range scanners showed an unidentified vessel emerging from stealth mode. "Pirates. They shouldn't be able to track us," Elias muttered. Lyra's fingers tightened on his sleeve. She pointed toward the cargo bay, then made a cutting motion across her throat. "Danger." "I know," Elias said. "Stay here." She shook her head violently. "No," she said, the word sharp and clear. Before Elias could argue, the ship rocked again. A warning flashed. "Boarding attempt." Elias grabbed a weapon from the locker, his face serious. "Stay in the dark. Lock the door." Lyra hesitated for only a second. Then she nodded. The pirates cut through the outer hull with practiced speed. Elias moved through the corridors, using the ship's narrow design to his advantage. He disabled one pirate with a stun blast. Then another, but there were more. Too many. A blast hit the wall near him, throwing him off balance. He hit the floor hard, pain shooting through his side. Footsteps closed in. Suddenly, the lights went out. Total darkness. The pirates cursed, their vision useless. A shape moved faster than Elias's eyes could follow. Lyra. She struck silently, efficiently. She disarmed one pirate, knocked another unconscious, and sent the third fleeing in panic. Her movements were precise, controlled, not wild or cruel. Within moments, it was over. The remaining pirates retreated, their ship breaking away in a rush of engines. Emergency lights flickered back on. Elias stared, stunned. Lyra stood nearby, breathing lightly, eyes glowing brighter than before. She looked at him, fear flashing across her face as if she expected anger or rejection. "You saved my life," Elias said slowly. She lowered her gaze. "I help." "Yes," he replied. "You did." He laughed once, a short sound of disbelief. "Guess I'm the one who needed protecting." Lyra looked confused by his tone, but she felt something shift between them. A balance. Not owner and possession. Partners. After the attack, Elias treated his injury. Lyra watched closely, concern clear on her face. When he winced, she moved closer, hesitating before gently touching his arm. "Pain?" she asked. "Yeah," he admitted. She closed her eyes, focused, and placed her hand over the bruise. A strange warmth spread through his skin. The pain faded. Elias blinked. "That's useful." Lyra gave a small, shy smile. Later, Elias investigated how the pirates found them. He traced the signal back to the same company that sold Lyra. A hidden tracker, buried deep in the ship's systems. "They're hunting you," Elias said quietly. Lyra's expression darkened. Her hands shook. "They take," she said. "Sell. Hurt. Not anymore." Elias said firmly. Not while you're with me. She looked at him, really looked at him, as if trying to see inside his thoughts. You not send back? She asked. No, Elias said without hesitation. You're free. The word seemed to echo in her mind. Free. She had not felt that since before the chains. That cycle, Lyra slept closer to Elias than ever before. Not touching, but near enough to feel safe. Elias did not move away. As the ship drifted through the stars, something new formed between them. Trust, built through action, not promises. Neither of them knew yet that this was only the beginning, that others were already searching, that Lyra's existence would soon draw the attention of powers far greater than pirates. But for now, in the quiet of deep space, a human and an alien vampire woman shared a fragile peace, and for the first time in a long time, Lyra slept without fear. The peace did not last. Elias felt it before the systems confirmed it. A pressure in the air. A sense that space itself was watching them. Lyra felt it even sooner. She sat up suddenly, eyes glowing brighter in the dark room, head turning slowly, as if listening to something far away. Someone comes, she said quietly. Elias was already moving toward the control panel. Long-range scanners showed faint distortions, almost invisible. 3 ships, military-grade engines, masked signatures. Not pirates, Elias said. Too clean. Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. Her voice dropped. Hunters. Elias cursed under his breath. He pulled up star charts, fingers moving fast. All right. We don't run straight. We run smart. The ship leapt into motion, slipping into a dense asteroid field. Rocks the size of cities drifted slowly, shadows everywhere. Elias cut the main engines and switched to silent thrusters. Behind them, one of the pursuing ships crashed into an asteroid, misjudging the field. The other 2 adjusted instantly. They learn fast, Elias muttered. Lyra closed her eyes. I can feel them, she said. Their minds are sharp. Cold. Can you tell where they'll go? Elias asked. She focused, breathing slow. They expect fear. Running paths. They do not expect. Waiting. Elias smiled slightly. I like how you think. He guided the ship into a hollowed asteroid, ancient and empty. The walls were thick with mineral deposits. Sensors struggled to see inside. They waited. Minutes passed like hours. Elias barely breathed. Lyra stood beside him. Calm now. Controlled. No longer the frightened woman from the crate. One hunter ship passed right by the opening. Then Lyra's eyes snapped open. Now. Elias fired the engines and shot out the opposite side, slipping past the remaining ships before they could react. By the time alarms sounded, Elias was already gone. They jumped to hyperspace seconds later. Elias let out a long breath. That worked. Too well. Lyra nodded slowly. They will not stop. No, Elias agreed. Which means we need answers. They changed direction toward a neutral trade world, a massive station known for information brokers and forgotten archives. Elias kept the ship masked. Using old codes and false IDs, the station loomed ahead like a metal moon, lights glittering across its surface. Inside, Elias moved carefully through crowded halls. Lyra stayed close, hood pulled low, senses wide open. She felt eyes on her everywhere, curiosity, suspicion, hunger. You all right? Elias murmured. Yes, she said. I am not weak. He glanced at her. I know. They found an archive clerk, an old machine intelligence that stored historical records. Elias paid for access, then pulled up everything on Lyra's species. The truth was worse than he expected. Long ago, Lyra's people had been explorers. Peaceful, powerful in ways that frightened others. When wars spread, her species refused to join. That made them targets. Lies were spread. They were called monsters, parasites, vampires. Eventually, they were hunted, enslaved, rewritten in records as lesser beings. They erased us, Lyra whispered, reading the data. Elias clenched his jaw. They tried. Another file appeared. Current operations. A corporation backed by several governments. Legal on paper. Slavery hidden behind contracts. They'll keep coming, Elias said. Not just for you. For anyone like you. Lyra looked up at him. Then we stopped them. Elias studied her face. She was afraid, but there was fire there now. Purpose. That's a big fight, he said. She met his gaze. Humans fight big fights. He laughed softly. Yeah. They did not stay long. Too many eyes. Too much risk. As they returned to the ship, Lyra suddenly grabbed Elias's arm and pulled him into a side corridor. Seconds later, armed figures marched past where they had been standing. Thank you, Elias whispered. She nodded. Partners, she said, using the word carefully. Partners, he agreed. They launched immediately. The hunters returned faster than expected. Not 3 ships this time. 5. Then 8. A net closing in. Elias pushed the ship hard, engines screaming. Lyra stood behind him, calling out danger before alarms could. Left. Now. Down. Wait. Now. They moved like one mind, but even skill had limits. A blast clipped the ship's side. Systems flared red. The jump drive failed. We can't outrun them anymore, Elias said. Lyra stepped forward. Then we changed the rules. She placed her hands on the control panel. Her eyes glowed intensely. Elias felt the air vibrate. What are you doing? He asked. I hide us, she said. The ship seemed to blur, not visually, but mentally. Sensors still worked inside. But outside, nothing. The hunter ships flew past. Confused. Scanning empty space, Elias stared at the displays. They can't see us. They can, Lyra said weakly. But they do not notice. I bend attention, she stumbled. Elias caught her. That took too much, he said. She smiled faintly. Worth it. They drifted in silence until the danger passed. Later, as Lyra rested, Elias sat beside her, watching the stars. You don't have to fight, he said quietly. We can hide. Lyra shook her head. If we hide, they take others. I was scared before. I am not anymore. He looked at her, really looked. Not a victim. Not a pet. A survivor. All right, he said. Then we fight smart. They began planning. Evidence. Records. Testimony from freed captives. Elias contacted old allies. Traders. Smugglers. Even officials who still believed in justice. Slowly, support grew. The hunters attacked again near a dead star system. This time, Elias was ready. He broadcast stolen data across open channels, exposing the corporation's crimes mid-battle. Several hunter ships hesitated. Some retreated. Fear works both ways, Elias said. Lyra stood tall beside him. They are afraid of truth. The final chase led them toward a fortified station. The heart of the operation. Heavy defenses. Many ships. Elias did not slow. Lyra reached out, her presence filling the ship. For the first time, she did not hide her power. She sent a single clear signal into the void. We are not prey. The reaction was immediate. Confusion. Panic. Systems failing as attention shattered. Elias guided the ship through the chaos, slipping past defenses, deeper into enemy space. As alarms screamed around them, Elias felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. They were no longer running. They were going home to end this. And Lyra, once delivered in chains, stood ready to reclaim everything that had been stolen from her people. The fortress station hung in space like a dark scar, surrounded by heavy defenses and armed ships. Bright lights marked weapon platforms, and layers of shields pulsed slowly, confident and strong. For years, this place had been untouchable, hidden behind contracts, laws, and lies. Elias guided his ship closer, hands steady. His face was calm, but his heart was racing. This was the end of the road. Either they stopped this, or they would never stop running. Lyra stood beside him, no longer hiding in shadows. Her eyes glowed softly, not with fear, but with focus. She could feel every mind on the station. Guards, prisoners, traitors who did not ask questions, and deep inside, the leaders who believed themselves safe. "They are ready for enemies," Lyra said. "Not for truth. That's our advantage," Elias replied. They slipped through the outer defense using stolen access codes and Lyra's ability to blur attention. Sensors glanced over them, alarms stayed silent. The ship docked in a maintenance bay, dark and quiet. As soon as the hatch opened, Lyra paused. The air was heavy with fear. Not hers. Others. "Many are trapped here," she whispered. Elias nodded. "Then we don't just expose them. We free them." They moved through narrow corridors, avoiding patrols. Elias disabled cameras while Lyra guided them away from danger before it appeared. They reached the central control sector, a massive chamber filled with screens and data streams. Guards noticed them too late. "Stop," one shouted. Lyra stepped forward. She did not attack. She simply let them feel her presence. The guards froze, their confidence breaking as fear they did not understand filled their minds. Elias disarmed them quickly, locking them inside without harm. "Non-lethal," Elias said firmly. "Always." They reached the main terminal. Elias connected his console and began uploading everything. Contracts, transport logs, medical scans. Proof that Lyra's people were fully sentient and illegally enslaved. Across the galaxy, screens lit up. Public channels, government networks, independent news hubs. The truth spread like fire. Inside the station, chaos began. Alarms rang. Doors opened. Cells unlocked. Lyra ran ahead, tearing open sealed chambers. Inside were others like her. Pale. Thin. Afraid. Different shapes and species. All labeled as property. She spoke to them gently, in words and emotions they could understand. "You are not owned," she told them. "You are free." At first, they did not believe her. Then they felt it. Hope. The station's leadership finally responded. Armed forces moved in, heavier, better trained. Elias and Lyra regrouped near the docking ring as fighting broke out between guards trying to escape and prisoners defending themselves. Elias took cover behind a console, firing stun rounds when needed. He moved with precision, protecting others, guiding them toward exits. Lyra stood in the open. Blasts passed around her but did not touch her. She bent perception, twisted aim, turned fear against those who had ruled through it. A corporate director appeared on a raised platform, shouting orders. "You cannot do this," he screamed. "This station is legal. You are criminals." Elias looked up at him. "No," he said calmly. "You're just exposed." Security forces hesitated. Messages flooded in from outside. Authorities, media, even allied fleets. The shields around the station flickered. Lyra closed her eyes and reached out. Not to attack, but to connect. She shared memories. Cages, chains, silence. She shared fear, but also survival. The guards dropped their weapons. The director fell to his knees, shaking. Hours later, the station was under control. Ships arrived to take custody. Medical teams moved through the halls, helping the freed captives. Lyra stood in the docking bay, watching beings step into open space for the first time in years. Some cried. Some laughed. Some simply stared at the stars. Elias joined her. "You did this," he said. "We did this," she corrected. He smiled. "Fair." Officials approached, offering protection, rewards, status. Elias refused most of it. "Just make sure this never happens again," he said. Lyra was offered relocation, therapy, even leadership among her people. She thought carefully. Later, aboard the ship, she stood in Elias's quarters again. The same room where she had once shaken in fear. "I can go with my people," she said. "Help rebuild." Elias nodded. "That makes sense." She looked at him. "But I choose." He met her eyes. "Always." She was silent for a long moment. "I will go," she said. But not alone. He raised an eyebrow. You asking me to tag along? She smiled, a real smile. Partners. He laughed softly. Guess I never did get that pet. No, she said. The ship launched days later, not running this time, but traveling openly. Their destination was a quiet world where Lyra's people could begin again. Across the galaxy, the story spread. A human who refused to see a person as property, an alien woman who refused to remain a victim, and a simple truth that echoed far beyond one station or one species. Humanity was not feared for its strength alone. It was remembered for its choice to stand up, even when it would have been easier to walk away. As the stars stretched ahead, Lyra stood beside Elias on the bridge, no longer afraid of the dark. She belonged to herself, and the galaxy would never see humans the same way again.